everybody, it's Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration. I'm one of your hosts for Christmas in July. Leah from Make All Things With Me, Jeannie from Jeannie's Palette, and Mary from The Painted Peach are also hosts. We hope you enjoy this playlist and that we inspire you. Today I will be using essential stencils and a paper from Decoupage Central. This is a very large paper, so we will probably be only using half of it. I do have affiliate links up in my description, and I would appreciate your support. Now, I took a 17 by 12 board. It did have another design on it, and I sanded it off. So we're going to paint the whole thing white so that it covers what was already on there, and it also gives a good base for our paper and make our paper really pop on here. Because once you start adding glue to that paper, it becomes a little bit see-through. So right here, I'm going to dry the board a little bit. And then I'm going to grab some red Rust-Oleum chalked paint. That is my favorite paint. I like to buy it in the quart size, and then I put it in these FIFO bottles, and it stays nice, and I don't have to keep opening the quart. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take this chippy brush. I'm going to go along the edges of this entire board, all the way around the outside edges, because my paper is red and I want it to blend in with the board. I want the rice paper to look like it melts into the board, that it's all one picture and not, something laying up on top of it. So we're just kind of going around. I'm just dabbing it. I'm not really painting on there. I'm just kind of stippling, I guess you could say, my brush over there. I had a little boo-boo in the middle where I touched it, so we covered that up, and then I'm going to get this nice and dry. All right, now I turned my board the correct way because I was trying to make sure that you guys could see what was going on there. I didn't realize I was quite out of frame. I apologize for that. So here I'm laying this paper on here, and as you can see, it's a very large board. Paper. I believe it is 24 by 17, but don't quote me on that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get out my water pen, and I'm going to run the water pen right down the center there just to get the width of my board. And I'm going to tear that because I like the fiber look. I like the fringy look, the fibery look when we go to put this on our board. I like that look. I don't like the straight lines, but that's just me. So now I'm going to go around and do the rest of the paper. I'm getting it wet with my paint, or my water pen, Then I'm just taking an eraser off of a pencil, and I'm helping pull that paper off. So it's kind of in a semi-straight line and not all cattywampus all over the place. Because sometimes when you tear stuff, you might take a big chunk out or not take a big chunk out. Although if you do that, it doesn't matter. It's okay. All right, so now we're going to see how we sized up on our board and lay it there. And if you notice, now you understand why I did the red around the edges. Okay, so I'm just making sure everything is fitting good. It was a little long, so we need to just take this other piece off right here. And that's what's nice about the water pen and the rice type of paper, because, if you cut it too short or even too long, you can fix that. If you cut it too short, all you have to do is blend your paints to make it match and just have it flow into the board or canvas or whatever your background might be. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start working on putting it on our board. I think there's a little spot up in the right-hand corner that I need to get. So we're going to grab that real fast right there and get that off of there. All right, our next step is going to be to start getting our paper actually attached to our board. So as soon as I get done fixing this, we'll start working on that. Now I'm going to you can use whatever you want for your medium for your decoupaging. I am going to use Pentart. I'm going to show it to you here just a second. I love this kind of decoupaging medium. It is a glue and a varnish. You can use it as a top coat. I love this stuff because it doesn't leave a film on your board or on your paint. So I'm covering that red part right there, and it's not going to end up being matte or glossy. A lot of times some of the others, even though it says they dry transparent, you can still see a little bit of a film. And I've never noticed that with the Pentart. You can also purchase the Pentart at Decoupage Central. So I really like this. Now what I do is I put it on here, and I put it on pretty generously, and I'm not going to put it over the whole board right away. We're just going to do about half of the board, and then I'm going to lay that paper down, and then we'll do the rest of it. So here I am laying this down right here, and I'm just kind of lining it up and rubbing it on there as best that I can. Now I'm going to grab this chippy brush, and I'm just going to kind of mush it down, get that paper down into that medium so that it will, really absorb in there and stick. Okay, so now we're going to start working on the rest of the board. I'm just spreading this out as evenly as I possibly can, and to get the rest of our paper on here. Now, if you notice, some of our paper is still wet, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me. Now, if you have a problem with wrinkles or anything like that, you might want to make sure that's dry before you start putting it down, because that could cause a wrinkle. The best way to dry that would be either with your heat gun, or you could possibly iron your rice papers, or even just regular paper. You can kind of iron it before you put it on, and that will help make the paper nice and flat before you even start. But wrinkles don't bother me. It doesn't faze me at all. I think that they add a little bit of character and stuff like that. Now, I did use the chippy brush. I don't know if I said this a second ago, but I'm going to say it because it helps push it down into that medium. But not only that, you don't get glue on your hands, and then when you touch your paper or your napkin or something that you're using, you could possibly stick to the paper and pull it up. So you don't want to do that. That's why I was using the chippy brush to kind of push that down. Now I had a couple air bubbles, and I just took that right over the top, because your rice papers and your napkins and things like that are very absorbent, so that matte medium will go right down to that. Now we're going to get out our stencil. How much fun is this? This is a stencil from, a stencil from last year's Essential Stencil Christmas package. And we're going to use the Believe in the Magic and put on here. I think it's going to look really cute. I like to use the Essential stencil brushes. They are my favorite. And I always like to use chalked paint. Chalk paint is nice, thick paint. The thicker the paint, the better. If you have to use thin paint because that's the color you want, what I highly suggest is you offload, because the key to stenciling is to make sure your stencil is nice and flat and that you have a very dry brush. You need to offload. I put paint on my brush, I went over to my plate, and then I worked that paint up into my brush by swirling it. Now, I went and grabbed a napkin and kind of double checked how much paint I had on my brush. And it showed that I didn't have very much, so I felt confident to go into my stencil. So the best practice is not to go directly into where the paint is supposed to be, just in case you have a blob of paint on there. Because when you have runny paint or a blob of paint, or your stencil is not completely flat, that is how paint gets under the stencil and causes bleed through. So it isn't hard. It's very simple to do once you get that figured out. It's always best to have to put a second coat of paint when you're stenciling than to try to do it all at one time. Now, I use stencil brushes. Some people use makeup wedges. Some people stipple. Some people rub. Some people do all different ways of stenciling. I like to go in a circular motion, and I like to use the stencil brushes. But that's me. Now, if you notice, once I get done here, I left my hand on the stencil and held it in place. Raised it up just to make sure it was the color that I liked and that I had coverage that I liked. And then I just pulled the thing off. Now, if you would pull your stencil off and you need to put it back on, it's very simple to go back on. Just find your letters and put it on there. Let's make a bow. I think this needs a bow. Now I take floral wire and I take a piece of it and I fold it in half and put it in my Bodabra here. Now I'm just taking the ribbon, going back and forth. This ribbon's double-sided, so I don't have to get crazy about doing any twists to make sure it shows. I'm just going back and forth, and then I just cut it off. Now I take that wire that I had in there, and I stick the ends in through the loop so I can kind of pull it really taut very easily. So I'm pulling it there. Then I take the two wires and separate them, and I go around a couple times. All right, then when I twist the bow, not your fingers, okay? And that'll give you a nice tight twist there. Now we're just gonna make the bow pretty. We're just gonna move our loops around, fluff them up, and all that kind of stuff. I have a little bit of a long tail there. We're gonna have to cut it off here in a minute, but I think that bow turned out kind of cute. Something simple and easy for this. We're gonna put the bow up in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm gonna use hot glue. If this was going to go somewhere outside or something that had direct sun or heat on it, I probably wouldn't want to use hot glue. I'd want to use some other glue. Oh, I forgot. We forgot to distress this. So I'm going to go over my edges where that bright red paint is and kind of distress it a little bit so it matches our paper a little bit better. Then I'm going to go over the whole thing with that, and that's going to make those wrinkles and stuff really pop and make this look like this sign has been around for a little while. Now it looks like I'm having to get a whole lot of ink, but my ink pad is almost dry, so that's why I keep having to go to the ink pad to get the right amount that I want on there. So we're just going to do that, and once we're done there, we're going to get our bow put on. All right, let's get our bow put on up here. Again, I'm going to use hot glue to attach it there to the top. Nothing fancy or anything like that. So we're just going to put a little blob and hold that on there for just a couple seconds, just to make sure that it adheres and it looks nice. I'm going to kind of fluff it around. I'm moving it around so you can see the words because I kind of covered it up a little bit with this bow, but that's okay. I think it looks absolutely adorable. I love how this project came out. Very happy with it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. It's Funky Junk Inspiration, all one word. I'd love it if you'd subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notifications when I go live. I told you guys I had affiliate links in the description for Decoupage Central and Essential Stencils, so I just thought I would put that here so that you could see what the icons look like when you go there. Thank you for joining us today for Christmas in July. Leah from Make All Things With Me, Jeannie from Jeannie's Palette, Mary from The Painted Peach, and me, Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration, and all our other collaborators that are in the playlist. We would love it if you'd subscribe to our channels and hit that little bell so you get notifications when we go live. You have a great day and an even better tomorrow. Bye-bye.